Hi everyone, welcome to Bad Fashion's YouTube channel. My name is Eunice. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing us how to make a straight skirt. That's a pencil skirt with pleated vent. So the measurements we need to achieve this skirt is around waist circumference. Here in this case, I'm working with the waist 39 and the round hip is 15. Then you also need the measurement from waist to hip line. Here from waist to hip line is 11 inches. From waist to floor length here is also 43 inches. So to determine the amount of fabric to fold, I'll be using the hip circumference. So that hip circumference, I'll divide it by 4, which is going to give me 12.5. So 12.5 plus 2.5 inches. So that will be what I'll be working with. So that's 15 inches. So I'll fold over my 15 inches and show us. Okay, so I've gone ahead to cut out my fabric and I have my 15 inches on fold. This is the wrong side of my fabric. So first, I will go ahead and draw my starting line, which will serve as the waistline. Then I'll go ahead to input my hip measurement. And the hip measurement, remember I said it's 11 inches. This skirt is going to have a band on the waistline. And this band is going to be 1.5 inches in length. So if the hip line is 11 inches, I'll be subtracting 1 inch from that hip measurement. The band is going to be 1.5 inches, but I will use half inch to join, that's half inch from the skirt to join to the band, that's to sew the band and the skirt together. So that is why I'm subtracting only 1 inch. So I'm going to be placing my tape from -1 and then I'll go ahead and mark on 11. So here is the hip line. Then we'll mark from waist to knee, still leaving my tape on -1. So I'll go ahead to and mark the knee line. The knee line is at 25 inches. And then the full length of the skirt is 43 inches. So here's my 43 inches. And then we need a hemming allowance of 2 inches. So I'll just go ahead and make my lines bolder by straightening it out this way. Okay, so we have our full length here. So here is my center front. Take note, I folded my fabric into two. And you see, it is into two. So now on the waistline, I'll be entering quarter of the waist measurement. And quarter of the waist measurement is 9 3/4. So on this waistline, I'll enter 1 inch for that after entering quarter of the waist measurement. So 1 inch for that, and then 2 inches for my sewing allowance. On the hip line, I'll enter quarter of the hip measurement, which is 12.5, and then 2 inches for my sewing allowance. Then on the knee line now, whatever you have on the hip line determines what you will have on the knee line. So here on the knee line, I have a total of 14.5 inches. I'm going to be subtracting 1.5 from it and enter it on the knee line. So 14.5 minus 1.5, that will leave me with 13 inches. I'll bring down the same measurement to the knee and to the hemline here, which is the same 13 inches, and then 13 inches to the hemming allowance also. So I'll just use my ruler to connect them this way. So having done that, I'll connect to the hip line also, and then to the waistline. So now I have my side markings. So now on the center front here, I'm going to be marking the nipple to nipple measurement. So the nipple to nipple of my client is 9 inches. Half of it is 4.5. So I'll go ahead and mark this 4.5 here. So I will come down by 5 inches. So on this 5 inches mark, I'll also go ahead and mark my 4.5 inches. So this is to get a straight line. This will be for my dart. So here on the waistline, remember I added 1 inch for my dart. So I'll be taking half inch on this side and half inch on this side. So I'll connect it like this. So my dart, front dart is 5 inches long. So I'll come here now to the front. I'll go down by half of an inch from this center front. This is to eliminate the waist sloper because you don't want to have gatherings around here, smile lines around the hip line here in front. So I'll be taking out half inch from the actual measurement. So here we are. So I'll just place my curved ruler like this and connect it. So now I've taken out the waist sloper. So now we are done with our front piece. All we need to do is to go ahead and cut it out. I haven't cut it out. So for now, I'll be cutting on this straight line. I'm going to leave the sloper for now first. After cutting out my front piece, you can see I went ahead to cut out the fabric for my back piece. So now the difference between the fabric for my back piece and the front piece, I increased the front. Remember that we folded 15 inches. So right now I have 16.5. I made it bigger by 1.5 inches because I'll be having my zip allowance at the back. So let me place my front piece on it so that we'll understand what we are talking about. So can you see that at the center front here, I have an excess of 1.5 inches. I hope you can see it clearly. So this is my 1.5 inches that will serve as my zip allowance. So you want to make sure that you maintain this line. So I can just go ahead and use my chalk to draw the center back line like this. So now we're going to go ahead and input our measurements. We're going to the same thing we have here. This the way the dart is here. That's exactly where my dart too will be at the back. It's just that the dart at the back will be longer. So I'm going to just explain. So now the hip measurement is the same, as you can see. So I'll just highlight my lines, the waistline. Okay. So now what we'll be doing now, since we have our actual measurement, so we're going to be doing some alterations for the back. Here is my knee line at the back here. Remember that we have 1.5 inches that will serve as our zip allowance. On this point where I have my 1.5 inches, I'll be reducing it by 1 inch. That's I'll be taking away 1 inch from the knee line here. So by taking away 1 inch from the knee line, I'll be left with half inch. So I'll mark the same half inch here. So that's I'm taking away 1 inch. So I'm going to go ahead and connect them like this. Can you see I'm marking on the half inch line? So you can see what is left here. I have 1 inch. So now I'll connect this half inch to the hip line here. Can you see that? And then on the waistline here, I'm going to be taking away half inch. This is to eliminate bulge at the back. You don't want your skirt to give. So meaning that I'll be left with 1 inch. So by taking away half inch, I'll be left with 1 inch. So I'll use my ruler also to connect it. And you see, I'll be cutting out this part and I'll also be cutting out this part. So for the knee line, I'll come back here. The 1 inch I removed from here, I'll come back here to replace it. Remember I said my zip allowance is 1.5. If I don't come back here to replace it, this skirt will be tight. But you can see that this now will give us that bomb effect because this center back here where the bum bum is, is not straight. If you leave it straight, this skirt will just have the nice shape only around the hip, and then when it's coming down to the lap, it will just go down straight without giving you the nice butt effect. So you want to have that nice butt effect. That is why I went ahead to remove 1 inch here and then also at the hem. But that 1 inch, I'll come back here to replace it at the side here. Here is my center back. So I'm coming back here to replace it at the side here because that is my zip allowance. So I'll come here and replace back that 1 inch. I'll also replace it back at the hem here also. So having done that, I'll just go ahead and connect my lines. So just as I connected it to the hip line, I will do the same thing too on this side. So I'll come here too to connect it to the hip line. So, and that's it. So can you see? So we're not doing anything here. This half inch that was removed here is to avoid gaping. So we are throwing it away. We won't be replacing this. So now we have our dart marking already. So I'll just go ahead and mark this point here so that we can lift up the front and draw the dart for the back. So I'll also do the same thing here. I'll just connect this line here to the hip. So now we can now go ahead and take out the front piece. So here is also our starting line for the back. So I'll take out my front piece. So can you see I have the markings already for my back. So I'll come here now to draw my dart. For the back dart is going to be 6 inches long. So at this 6 inches mark, I want to go ahead and confirm my 4.5. So I'll still go ahead and mark my half inch for that. Okay, so can you see that? So our back is also ready. So go ahead and cut it out. So I'll be cutting on my markings. So I'll come to this point. I'll be cutting out this 1 inch here. So here, we'll take out our half inch for zipper bulge. You don't want the back to bulge, and you have gaping at the back. So here now, I'll go ahead and place my front piece like this. Can you see? Can you see what we have? Trim out my excess here. Can you see that by placing my skirt, the front piece on the back piece, I'm going to make the sides align here. Can you see? So can you see that my 1.5 inches has shown up back here? And you see we have our 1.5 inches that will serve as our zip allowance. So you cannot cut that 1.5 inches and throw it, and that 1 inch and throw it away. You will bring it to this side. So you can see the center back. Can you see it has this hip shape? You just know that there's something there. The butt is not flat. So you don't want that part to just be straight. So you can see that it has the shape of a human butt. If you look at the side of the hip here, you can see that the shapes are almost the same. So in order to avoid confusion so that you don't interchange them, you come here to the zip allowance here and notch it. So this is to indicate that this is your center front side. So now we'll come to this part too and cut out our sloper. This will help you to avoid smile lines. That's when gathering around the hip line. So now we're done with this. I'm going to go ahead and cut out my lining. My lining is going to be 2 inches shorter than the main fabric. Then I'll show us how to cut the fabric we'll be using for the pleated vent. Okay, so I've gone ahead to cut out my lining, and my lining is 2 inches shorter than my main fabric. And you see these are my back pieces. I have two of them. So I'll keep this aside. I did the same thing for the front. I cut out my lining and it's also 2 inches shorter. So can you see? It's 2 inches shorter than the main fabric. So here outside. So here we have, this is the fabric I'll be using for my vent, for the pleated vent. Here I have a length of 22 inches. 2 inches is going to be for my hemming allowance. For this material I'm using for my vent, I won't be lining it. I'm just going to be using my Ankara fabric. So I'm going to be folding this hem. I'm going to be stitching it down with 2 inches as my hemming allowance for this part. And then the width I have here, I have a width of 14 inches. And of course you can see that is on fold. So in all I have 28 inches wide and then 22 inches in length. So this is for the vent. Now I also have my band. My band is 2.5 inches long. 2.5 inches long. I'll be using half inch to join the band at the upper part. So that will leave me with 2 inches, and then I'll be using half inch to join it to the skirt. So that will now leave me with my 1.5 that I said our band length is going to be 1.5. So that is why I have 2.5 inches here. And I have two pieces of this, and the width of my band is the waist circumference plus 5 inches. So the waist circumference I'm working with is 39 inches, so plus 5 inches, that has given me 44. So I'll go ahead and iron my gum stay, medium weight gum stay. I'll iron it to the band. Okay, so that's that. So now it's time for us to sew because we are done with our cutting. So to start sewing, this is what I'll be doing. I'll pick the back piece first. I'm going to be stitching the hem. That's, I'll place my lining good side facing good side. I will stitch the hem. I'll do the same thing for the second one. Then I'll show us how we're going to be inserting our vent into the center back. Sewn my lining. This is my front piece. Can you see I have my hemming allowance? I went ahead to do French finishing. You can see that my stitch is inside. This is the right side of my fabric. This is the wrong side. So you can see, you can't see my stitches. So let's keep this aside because our area of concentration is on the center back. So for the back also, I went ahead to sew my lining, placing the lining on the right side of the fabric. I sewed on half inch, and I also went ahead to do my French seam here on the side of the skirt. So here is our center back, and you see that it's opened. Okay, and then also I repeated the same thing. This is also my center back, it's opened. So let me place them this way. Center back facing center back from the lining side. So this is my fabric I'll be using for the pleated vent. I also went ahead to fold to stitch the hem down with my hemming allowance. So now what I have left is 20.5 inches. So now the next thing I'll be doing, I'll pick this my piece of fabric, and I'll place it inside that. Can you see I'm opening my skirt? I'll place it in between the lining and the fabric. So this is what I want to achieve. I'll place it like this, wrong side this way. Can you see this is the right side? So wrong side facing the lining this way. I'll make sure that the hems, they all align from here. Can you see that? So they are lining this way. So I'll flip the main fabric. Can you see I'm leaving the lining? I'll hold the lining and the piece of fabric together, and then I'll flip the main fabric this way. Can you see? So I'll go ahead to pin it this way like this. That automatically my piece of fabric now is in between the lining and the fabric. So I'll pin it all the way to the waistline this way. So I haven't done that. I'm going to take to my sewing machine and sew on 1/2 inch. Remember my zip allowance is 1.5. I'll be sewing on 1/2 inch all the way to the waistline. I'll do that and show us. Haven't sewn this part down. Can you see? So now I'll bring it out. So I'm just going to bring it out this way. So this is what it looks like from the wrong side. Can you see how neat my piece of fabric? This is just to make sure that it's neatly finished. So what I have done here on the second back piece, and I'll show us the next thing to do. So I've stitched the second side also. Can you see what we now have? It's all neat. So now I will come down from the waistline. You want to make sure that you are placing them and everywhere is matching up. Can you see my fabric for the vent is matching up here at this point? So I'll come down from the waistline 9 inches. That would be the length for my zip. That's for the zip allowance here. So from waist to 9 inches, depending on the size of the person's butt, you can even do as much as 10 inches. So but I'm okay with this 9 inches. So from this 9 inches now, I'm going to be sewing on 1 inch. Remember my zip allowance was 1.5. Of course, I've used 1/2 inch to sew this side, okay? As my seam allowance, I also use it to join my fabric for the vent. So I'm left with 1 inch. So I'm going to just mark my 1 inch, 1 inch. I'm going to be sewing down 1 inch up to 1 inch below this fabric. So this is where this fabric starts. I'll just come down by 1 inch. Okay, you can do 1 inch, you can do 1/2 inch, you can stop 1/2 inch below it, but I'm going to be working with 1 inch below it. So I'll take this to my sewing machine and just stitch this part down and also fix my zip and come back and show us how to create the vent. To fix my zipper, can you see? And I went ahead to iron it flat. So now to create our pleats, I'm going to hold my fabric here into 2. So you want to make sure that you get the midpoint. I don't want to notch it because I've already woven this place. So I'm just going to use my iron to create a crease line. And this way now I have 2 equal parts. So now I'm going to open my skirt like this. Open this way. You see? Remember that I sewed 1 inch below the starting point of my fabric. So now I'm going to place it like this. I hope you can see clearly what I'm doing. Let me bring it this way. So I haven't gotten the center here, the crease line. I'm going to place it like this. That's I'll open it up like this and place it at the middle here. So when you place at the middle here, you can still go ahead and press it so that it now relaxes well like this. Okay, so you can see I have some of it under here and I have some here. Remember that the measurement I used, everything I used in all, the width was 28 inches, 14 inches on fold, that's 28 inches. So this is my center here. So now we want to begin pleating. So I'm going to start from under. So I'll raise it up a little. I know that here is my middle, I can see my crease line. So all you need to do now is to pick the one under. Can you see what I'm doing? I'm going to pick the one under like this. You want to pleat with like 2 inches. So I'm going to bring it this way. And you see, I want to have 2 inches this way. So I'll place my tape. I have 2 inches this way. Of course, for it to come and meet this part at the center line, that's at the center back, of course it will have to be 3 inches. Okay, because here is extra 1 inch. So I have 2 inches under and I have 3 inches here on top. So can you see that? So having pinned down my 3 inches like this, I'll take it back to overlap on top of it. Placing it this way, so I've taken it back. Can you see that? So I've done 2 pleats. That's what this means. Then I will bring the other one and take it back like this. You want to make sure to maintain that center. Can you see? So this is what we have here. Can you see? So you can see that the last one didn't go all the way up to this point. That's it didn't come to finish here at this point, but this is okay. So I'll just go ahead and pin it. You just need to raise it up a little and pin it. So I have this side pleated already. So I'm going to repeat the same thing for this part. I'm going to leave 2 inches here. That's 2 inches after the seam. That's from where I joined it. I'll mark 2 inches and then I'll take it back like this. So for it to reach here, of course, that will be 3 inches because that's extra 1 inch. Then I'll bring it back again like this. Okay, back like this. So now I have the final pleat. So I'll also raise it this way and pin it down. So can you see what I have here? Can you see that? So you want to just use your pressing iron to just press it down. So I'm going to press it like this. So after pressing it down, I will take it to my sewing machine and just stitch down this point at this point like this. That's just all. You just need a straight stitch here. So let me flip it to the right side so that we'll see what we have. Can you see what our pleats look like already, even without stitching it down yet? Can you see that we have the pleats here already? So I'm just going to take it down and stitch it and come back and show us. I've stitched it down. Can you see that? So this is what it looks like on the wrong side. It's neatly stitched, and this is it. So this is what it looks like. Can you see how beautiful it looks? Came out really nice. Not everybody wants to have a visible slit, so you can make your pencil skirt and still be comfortable to move, because you can see that this will add volume for movement, free movement. Okay, so remember that we cut our band already. I went ahead to join them together with 1/2 inch. So you can see I folded 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. Okay, so I'll also go ahead and iron it like this. So I have my band. So once we're done shaping the skirt, I will show us how to fix the band. First, I will sew my darts first. Sew my darts on the skirt, then shape the skirt to the size of my client, and I'll show us how to fix the band. So after shaping the skirt to my client's measurement, as you can see, it's looking all neat and tidy. So the next thing to do is my band. And you see I placed my band on the wrong side of the fabric like this. That's one side of the band. Can you see? So this is what it looks like on the right side. So now I'll just open my zipper. By placing, I mean I've sewn it to one side of the band. Can you see? So this is what we have on the right side. So now the next thing I'll do now is to place my band like this, right side of the band facing right side, and then I'll sew on 1/2 inch, because this band I'm going to have hook and eye, so it will overlap on the other. So here now I have an extra of 1.1 3/4, so I'm going to sew on 1/2 inch. like this. I'll bring it down. Can you see what I have here? This, remember that I folded the hem of the band. So I'm just going to sew on 1/2 inch to this point. So for this one, I'm going to cut out the excess I have. This is quite long. I want to have the same thing as what I have here. So I'm just going to get my scissors and trim it out. So I haven't trimmed it out. So this is what I have. I'll also flip it this way and then sew on 1/2 inch. By the time I'm done sewing on 1/2 inch, then I'll bring it to the right side. Of course, if I've sewn this way, this place will be sewn already. Then I'll bring it to the right side. Excuse me. I'll bring it to the right side and top stitch my band from the outside, all the way from this side to the other side. Okay, I hope we understand. So I'm going to do that and show us. We're almost done with this video. This is the last thing we're doing. My band, can you see what we have? So you can see I went ahead to fix my hook and eye. Can you see? So you can just button your skirt. So this is what my skirt looks like. Let me turn the back side. You see what it looks like. It's overlapping on it and my zip is there. So, and our vent is all looking nice. I hope you have learned something from this video. Please, if you did, kindly give me a thumbs up, share this video with your friends, subscribe to my channel, and do not forget to put on the notification bell so that you get notified whenever I post a new video. Thank you for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.